Good afternoon and welcome to a panel where we're going to talk about catalysts for change and trends impacting the hospitality industry. This format is new to me, not being on stage, but being on a stage that's surrounded by hundreds of people having active conversations. So if we need to speak up, please give us some kind of sign so that we'll know to do it. Instead of introducing my panelists, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. I'll start. My name is Alex Alt, and I run Oracle Hospitality. Many of you know we provide a portfolio of solutions to the hospitality industry, and thrilled to have three guests with us today. So I'll start to my left with Judith.
Good afternoon, everyone. Judith Cartwright. I'm the founder and managing director of Black Coral Consulting. And we focus on revenue optimization and distribution. We help owners optimize their asset, but we also help management companies to develop their revenue management distribution structures. And before launching Black Coral Consulting, I was the Senior Vice President for Revenue Management Distribution at Kersner International, overseeing the Atlantis, one and only, and Mazagan Beach Resort.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm CEO of Global Hotel Alliance. We are, or we claim to be, the largest alliance of independent hotel brands in the world. We have nearly 40 independent brands collaborating on a single platform which enables us to provide distribution, sales, and in particular our loyalty program solution, GHA Discovery, to a shared customer base of 20 million members. I should probably at least mention some of our founder and shareholder brands to give some context. Kempinski, Pan Pacific, Corinthia, and Miners, large growing stable of brands, which it includes the very large NH hotels, which will be joining Global Hotel Alliance next month. So an exciting time for the Alliance and great to be with you all today.
Good afternoon from largest to largest. Dimitri Manakis. I'm the president for Europe, Middle East, Eurasia, and Africa for Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, which is the largest franchisor of hotels with 9,000 hotels in 95 countries. So I'm glad to be with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And part of the context for today is we conducted a study in partnership with Skift, studying forward trends in hospitality. It hasn't been released yet, but I've seen a copy, and I'll try to feather in some of the statistics that we learned when we surveyed 600 hoteliers and 5,000 consumers. So I'll try to feather in some of those facts. I believe in an icebreaker, and I have not told the panel what the icebreaker is, but I'm going to ask each one of them, what is your go-to karaoke song? I'm hoping they look terrified right now. I'm not looking over there, but I'm assuming that their minds are spinning. I always felt like everyone should have a go-to karaoke song. I'll start because it's pretty embarrassing. I can sing Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice. Some of you have even seen this, which is frightening. But Judith, how about you?
Under the Boardwalk.
Under the Boardwalk. Wow. I'm going to skip. Demetris.
Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive.
I didn't tell them that we're going to have to do these at the end of the panel. I'd love to see that. Chris.
That's a really unfair question. Well, I'm from near Manchester in the UK, so I'll go with Oasis and Don't Look Back in Anger. How about that?
Wow, that's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, you were prepared for that question, so thank you so much.
Do we have to sing as well now, or is that?
We'll see how this goes, maybe later.
You have to pay us more if we do.
So part of our research, we talked about 4 trends in hospitality in this publication that we'll release next week. And one of those trends is keeping it human with technology. As hotels start to adopt more technology, how do you preserve the human experience of traveling and experiencing destinations? One of the fun facts from our research is that 54% of hoteliers are prioritizing tech that either improves or eliminates the front desk experience, which is fascinating. So First question for the audience, and I'll start at the far side since I've been starting with Judith thus far. How far will the digitization of the guest experience go?
We gotta be very cautious, because one of the things, and technology is actually closely related to the human element, right? To the human capital. And every conference I've been the last 6 months, everybody talks about the war of talent or the lack of talent, and people live in the hospitality industry. So we need to be very cautious, because when we talk about technology eliminating human interaction, actually it pushes people outside of the industry. It pushes people, oh, you know what, hospitality industry is not for me. I'm going to become a van driver for Amazon, because you know, Prime now on Prime time has better future. So we need to be very careful with the messages when we talk about eliminating the human factor. The hospitality industry, I personally believe you gotta love people to be in this business. If you don't love people, you can be anything else. So the human element is important. Technology will play a role. It will be an enabler, but it cannot be the reason why people leave the industry. So for me, yes, embrace it, bring technology into your systems, but the moment you walk into a fully digitalized hotel, that means that hotel, the reason for being there, which is the human interaction, is gone. You know what? One of the things that I think we all learned during the pandemic is going back to basics. You know what? We all needed, yes, digital actually got us through 2 very difficult years full of sadness, but it was the human element that kept us going. So yes, bring technology, embrace it, make it part of your strategy, your plan, but always remember the basic reason why we all travel is that human interaction. And that human interaction is between us, and you saw it here, it's between the hotel guests, it's between the hotel staff. So yes, embrace it, make sure that it works, but never forget the human interaction in every single place you go.
Christopher, I'm going to ask you to go a little bit deeper, and if you think across your portfolio of brands, are there sacred roles that you think will always have that human touch? And then are there certain roles that you predict will be ceded to technology?
It's interesting, you said in your research, 54% of people researched said that they felt that technology would remove aspects of the front desk customer experience. The implication is that the other half believe it won't. And that sort of summarizes my view on this. I think there are certain types of customer who absolutely want the human interaction. I think the higher up the scale of hotels you get, we tend to have brands operating in the upscale and luxury segment. I think leisure guests who have more time in particular in that segment expect the human interaction. So when it comes to actually entering the hotel and starting to interact with the staff and the people in the hotel, I think very much it's at the forefront of what hospitality is all around, is not to eliminate that interaction. Where I really see technology providing value at all levels of the customer experience is particularly pre-arrival. I think what you're seeing more and more now is customers wanting to, from the minute that they start interacting with a brand, they start searching for a hotel to stay or an airline to fly with. The more that you have technologies that are able to recognize the customer, able to help them build a reservation based on their preferences, pre-arrival organization, people don't necessarily want to talk to people pre-arrival. They're very happy to share a WhatsApp or have information that's coming through on a booking on their app, for example, that they can pre-book certain services. So I think the pre-arrival experience, absolutely, you can imagine a large portion of people wanting to eliminate the human contact. But no, I don't see, especially in the upscale and luxury sector, that that's going to happen once you enter the property. And I think it eliminates too much of the human experience, to your point, Dimitris, if that's what happens. So it shouldn't be our goal.
Understood. Thank you so much. Now, Judith, you've been part of a discipline where for years there's been a human versus machine debate going on in terms of revenue management. How do you see the human versus the machine aspects in the field of revenue management?
No, thank you. It's the technology needs to enhance the guest experience, and it also needs to enhance how hotel teams operate. whether it's from strategy setting or when you look at technology available for the front desk specifically, is what can assist them to spend more time with the guest when they have questions. And if you dissect the business, whether it's destination resorts, whether it's ultra luxury or 3-star properties, I think the approach is very different. And when you look at the 2, 3, and 4-star hotels, you might want to reduce the human interaction. And when it comes to ultra luxury, you want to make sure that the employees have as much time as possible to cater to the guest, but that certain aspects are taken care of by technology. And when you look at revenue management systems, they are good if you have a good human behind them that can manage them. Otherwise, it's just garbage in, garbage out.
Thank you so much. You know, it's interesting, we talked about hoteliers' investments in technologies that improve or reduce the human element of guest interaction. We also talked to travelers, 5,000, and I was a bit surprised that around 28% say that they prefer to interact with the property via a text or via a chatbot, which is interesting. Another thing that I found interesting is if you look at the airline industry, and I hate to compare hospitality to the airline industry because the experience is so much different, but pre-pandemic, about 50% of airline travelers were going to the counter. That was two and a half years ago. Today, only 25% are going to the counter for check-in, bag check, things like that. So we've seen the pandemic really change consumer behavior. So my next question for this group, and I'd love to have a volunteer versus calling on someone, what types of technologies is the industry or your brands investing in to accommodate changes in how consumers expect to interact with either a property or a brand?
So I'll start because I love, you mentioned brands, so I got excited. So I've got 2 teenage girls. One of them is 25 and the other one is 23. The last 2 years, they only talk to me via WhatsApp. We had an interesting, so it was last week, we were ordering lunch and I said, my eldest daughter said, oh, shall we get something to eat? And I said, yeah, are you at home? She said, yes. I said, why are you WhatsApping me? She says, it's easier. So I guess that's the world we live in. You know, people will text you and WhatsApp you. I was talking to our colleague from APAC the other day. In China, everything is done through WeChat. So that's the only platform they use for everything. They book, they pay. Again, I think the brands, and we've done that at Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Our app is latest state of technology. Our app does everything that the guest needs. The app allows to communicate with Wyndham, allows to communicate with the property. It geotechnology, artificial intelligence helps you with the bars and the restaurants nearby. Yes, all of that is fantastic, and we're going to improve it. But when you get to the hotel, again, to Chris's point, you need that interaction with that person right there. So be ready, build the technology, make sure that you've got everything for every type of customer. But remember that human element is still going to be very important. So I see that whole instant communication, and I mentioned Amazon again, it's Prime now, I want it now. I see that instant communication, the brands and the consumer will take us to a completely different level in the future.
I generally agree with all of that. I think I've also got 2 daughters who communicate with me on WhatsApp, if I'm lucky, because they consider WhatsApp pretty old technology. I'm pretty impressed that I use it, and they're not so impressed. But yeah, you're right. People don't call each other anymore. I think embedding communications technology with an app is obviously a far more personal experience because you've got your own content and personal data in it. And I feel that's the way forward. I think email itself of communication form is awful, even for my old generation, because it's just such a large quantity of it, and there's a mixture of personal emails and work emails, and it's difficult to know how to sift through the communications on email. So I think, yes, embedding communications within an app is actually absolutely critical. that, and I go back to what I said earlier about pre-arrival is the most important part of that customer experience. I think once you're in the hotel, you do want that interaction. It is about the experience. It is about the touch points. But I go one step further. We've actually just done a deal with a company that's invested in Global Hotel Alliance called A Small World. Now, some of you may be members of A Small World. If you're not and you're relatively young and you like traveling, it's a social network, a community of people that like traveling. And they communicate with each other when they travel, and they meet up and they exchange travel stories. And we're now going to embed that within our loyalty program so that our idea of the future of loyal customers is not only that we can communicate with them easily, but they can communicate with each other. So at the moment, if you want to find out about a hotel, you go to TripAdvisor, you know it's full of fake reviews, you don't believe anything it says anyway, but what you do believe is if you're communicating with someone else and so within the same program. So what we'll be enabling through A Small World is the ability to communicate between customers within a loyalty community, meet up for events, and then you can really get perspectives about travel, truth in travel, if you like, from other customers, like-minded people. And I think that's socialization of travel is a trend that we're going to see more of. And of course, tech enables that very much. And the app is the way to, a personal app is the way to enable that.
So I sat at dinner last night next to the founder of A Small World, and he used two terms with me that I found were interesting. First, he said, we're a social network. And secondly, he said, we're a technology company. So I think taking that and applying it to hospitality, I congratulate you on the move. It's very exciting. So Judith, it's my perspective, I could be wrong, but that during the pandemic, that the revenue management function was one that was particularly hit hard in terms of role loss, as companies tried to thin out their cost structure to weather the storm. As business comes roaring back, how are you seeing investments in people or investments in technology tools?
It should be a combination of both, but it's during the pandemic, revenue management systems, they had to reinvent themselves because the demand just became very last minute. Then you had some companies or owners say, well, if we don't have revenues to manage, we don't need revenue management. And that's where I would challenge and say, look at revenue optimization. So how can you optimize the revenues before the guest actually comes in? And revenue management has so many more touch points than the rooms. It's when you look at the total revenue management for restaurants, for spa, it happens at the front desk, and everything is combined with technology. It's in my previous life then too, when you look at how companies choose technology, not just revenue management systems itself, but revenue management being the gatekeeper and making sure that the systems are set up correctly. If you have an upselling tool in place, which was manual before, and that comes back to earlier, how can technology help the front desk not to limit the human interaction, but to assist the human interaction? So if a front desk agent doesn't have to do the upselling anymore because it's done in the forefront, that is technology that's assisting, and it's keeping that away from the guest. But if you have nobody at the back end managing it, you don't optimize it. So it's almost like a catch-22. It's also revenue management at hotels working together with technology companies, making sure that the technology companies understand what's happening on hotel level to see how can they adapt their systems. And when you look at revenue management systems itself, if you just have a city-based property where you only have direct business, you might be able to have it on an autopilot. If you go into destination resort, ultra luxury resort, or into destinations like you have in the Maldives or Indian Ocean, in Thailand, where you have a lot of trade business, that's also important, and that's your bread and butter. A revenue management system is not able to optimize that segment for you today until you have direct connectivity. And I could go on. But in short, you need both.
Great. And when you talked about that upsell product, I can only assume you were talking about Nor1, which is an upsell, an AI ML-driven upsell tool that Oracle Hospitality acquired about 1.5 years ago. This isn't a commercial, don't worry, but I want to build on what you said, which is there used to be a front desk component to activating an award, where the front desk agent had to communicate to the traveler that they had been awarded their upgrade, had to make some changes to the room. Typically, it's a room upgrade. And what we saw during the pandemic is we had a feature called Auto Award that really takes the human effort of making the room award out of the hands of the front desk agent. So what happens is someone applies for an award, they get it, the system automatically assigns a new room. So when they check in, the front desk agent is none the wiser. They've gotten their award and they're going to their suite over their room. So it's an example from our perspective of where the labor shortage and adding one more task for the front desk to try to accommodate at check-in was assisted by or facilitated by a piece of technology.
I think it's not just that, but it's also for you as the customer, that if you don't want to have that human interaction, you've been on a long flight. The last thing you want is somebody at the front desk saying, would you like to pay another $50 for the next higher category? And it's already done, and you have that peace of mind.
Yeah. So if it's okay, I'd like to talk a little bit about labor. And labor and hospitality in many geographies on the back end of the pandemic is a major challenge. I know there are over 1 million job openings in the hospitality industry in the United States. I don't have a global figure. What that means is fewer people doing more jobs, new people to the industry learning tools and technologies. My question for the group, probably start with you, Demetrius, if it's okay. How have hiring practices changed as a result of increasing dependence on technology? We've all talked about the tech that each of your companies or your brands are deploying. What does that mean for the type of people that we're trying to attract to the industry and provide them with a career, not a job?
Yeah, it's a major issue, and I'm not going to say something that the audience and everybody hospitality doesn't already know. This is going to be the greatest challenge that we're going to face as a business. We're getting older. The new generation is not coming in. I don't know if you're aware, but I've been to a lot of hotel schools the last couple of years. 50% of the graduates do not stay in hospitality. Lausanne has just changed its name from a hotel school to a business school. Why? Because 50% of the graduates don't stay in hospitality anymore, so they're not a hotel school anymore. I think this is major. And to your point, I think the hotel of the future shouldn't have a back office and front office. What does that actually mean? There's not an office. It's not an office. It's a community. We create communities. When you tell somebody, oh, you want to work in a back office, he's going to be worried. He's going to go into a dungeon, somebody, and he's going to see the light of the day. So the whole world, the way we position ourselves as an industry needs to change. Because if we don't, no matter how technology can actually help, if we don't reposition the future of hospitality and how we actually position to bring that generation in, we're not going to be successful. No matter what great technology we're gonna deploy. A friend of mine, he just changed his receptions, and he said, I don't employ receptionists anymore. I employ experience officers. I call them experience officers. And good afternoon, sir. I'm your experience officer. How can I help you? That changed the mindset of the people he employed completely. So it's perception versus reality. When you hire people, if you don't use technology, the days that we used to write, 50 pages of CVs and telling people how good we are, nowadays you just look at their Instagram account and you know exactly if they're lying or not. So the world has absolutely changed. So if we don't adapt the way we hire people, the way we attract people, those people are not going to be bothered. They're not going to say, no, hotel industry, but forget it. It's not for me. I'm going to be an Amazon van driver. That's the reality.
The rebranding of the roles is back of house. When we were I used to work for Rosewood Hotels and Resorts, and we rebranded back of house to heart of house. That helped a little bit because, like you said, people felt like they were in the heart of the house, not in some storage closet someplace.
Exactly.
Christopher, Judith, how have your brands or your businesses or your clients changed their outlook on and approach to hiring, given this human and technology overlay that seems to be growing in the industry?
Yeah, it's interesting because we don't operate any hotels. Our brands are the owners and operators of the hotel assets. So we're really a marketing technology company. We have Oracle as our tech partner, and the people we hire tend to be tech-savvy marketeers. And so for us, attracting those sort of people is more about competing for the best talent. So it's not so much about attracting them into the industry. The corporate office environment of hospitality is actually, I think, very attractive still. As we've just been saying, it's very much about attracting people who are tech savvy, who want to get into new forms of marketing, disrupting the way we do business. But that's at a central level. And I think what's happened in hotels, the world of hotels over the last 20, 30 years, is that everything's been centralized and technology's enabled that. We, from Global Hotel Alliance's office here in Dubai, have a single view of all 40 brands within the alliance using your nice Oracle Central Systems technology, which enables us to track what they're spending in every hotel. We can do all the analysis, we can do look at all the marketing trends, and then we can adapt our loyalty products and other services accordingly. Back in the hotels, though, we've got a whole different problem because the people leaving universities, as you say, they want to go into marketing and technology. That's where the money is. That's where all the fun is. That's where all the disruption's happening. That's where all the new technologies are emerging from. So they want to join tech companies. And the life of working in a hotel is a lot less attractive, let's be honest. All the good fun things have been centralized. And so the people left in hotels are doing split shifts, having to do night shifts, doing tasks that maybe aren't as attractive for your typical graduate. And remember, we've got millions more graduates emerging from universities than we did 20 years ago. And they don't want to take all of that learning and go and apply it in a hotel operation. That's the challenge we have. Not to mention, it's a relatively low-paid industry. So I'm not providing any solutions with my answer. I'm just saying that the attractiveness of hospitality because of technology has moved into the corporate office environments. And I say we're not operators, but the operators have to rethink, how do you attract people back into the hotel? And I think you're right, it's about guest experience, about having people that want to interact with customers and share the love of hospitality and people. But that's a challenge.
Yeah, many of the industry associations in the hospitality space are focused on rebranding the industry. American Hotel and Lodging Association, which I'm a part of, is very much focused on demonstrating to new entrants into the industry what are your potential career paths, and having those paths that can be interesting and exciting for the candidates. I provided that group with an interesting stat. So we have roughly 2,400 employees at Oracle Hospitality across the entire business. More than half started their career on property, in property operations. So we feel like it's a great story. Not that we're picking people off from the properties, but it's a great story that you can have a path to a career in technology that starts in hotel operations. It's a selling point for the H&LA as they're trying to bring resources back to the property. So Judith, I have a question for you. If you think about the requirements that you were interested in for a revenue manager 5 years ago, so call it 2 or 3 years pre-pandemic, how have those requirements changed? Like, what are the changes in the types of candidates you're looking for today versus 5 years ago?
In terms of today, I would still need to have that flexibility and the right mindset. What I see today, I have a lot more candidates that are commercially minded. And I believe that revenue managers in 3 years' time will be commercial leaders and not just the typical revenue managers, because the revenue management is the gatekeeper of the strategies. They make sure that it's profitable and they interface with all the functions of the business, whether it's sales, marketing, PR, operations, and also finance. And that's where it comes back to technology. So you have to be taking a dual approach. One, you have to have a commercial mindset, but you also need to have the analytical/technical mindset. You can have all the best systems in place. If they're not managed correctly, if you don't have the right processes and the procedures, and if you don't have the visual mind in terms of what the outcome is. Technology, automated or non-automated, isn't going to go anywhere. And just to give you an example, it's when you come to total revenue management is something a lot of people speak to, like sustainability, right? It has been around a long time, but a lot of people don't know where to start. And if you don't set up your F&B systems, whether it's your restaurant reservations, whether it's a business intelligence tool, right? Again, it's garbage in, garbage out. And a lot of times those tools, whether it's the point of sale or it's the restaurant reservation system, are managed by the operations department. And if you don't have revenue management as the gatekeeper to help analyze how long are your meal periods, what is your menu engineering, what is your menu design, that you apply the Google heat map to influence the customer, again then without the human interaction of upselling, but the customer journey defines itself when they're looking at the menu, that they get to buy what you want to sell by the decoy pricing that you place. And that's really critical.
You know, we've talked about multiple technologies at work, revenue management, the application, central systems. Historically, this industry is known for having thousands of vendors. You need just to walk the floor here to see. And historically, how those different technology assets communicate, integrate, speak to one another has been a main pain point in the industry. We've invested very heavily in open architecture, API first. I'd love to hear from anyone in the group. Are you seeing improvements in how the different systems interact with each other, either within a property environment or at a corporate office level?
Definitely. There is improvement, but what my vision is, in terms of then also whether you're from a corporate level looking at systems or whether you're at a property level, you have to have ideally one system that does it all for you. So one system, today a lot of things are focused around rooms. And I would like to have the focus shift not just on rooms, but also on F&B. And for a lot of businesses, the food and beverage accounts for 40% of the revenues of a business. So imagine the hotel teams, they focus on whether it's sales, marketing, or revenue management, PR, they focus on driving the rooms. And it's nice to get the bums in bed. But imagine if you have another 40% focused on your F&B, what that does to your business. And coming back to your question, is if you then have one system that is your property management system, your CRS, your point of sale, your revenue management system. Ideally then you have your rate shopping tool, and not necessarily everything interfaced and interlinked. Then it comes to reporting, your business intelligence tools. Again, you want to have this under one umbrella, that you can run the reports, slice and dice them the way that you need to, limiting the human interaction. I'm not saying that you need less staff, but you want to have the staff focus on the strategies, the overarching commercial strategies, and don't spend the time on analyzing the data. That's my ideal scenario of the technology.
Thank you. Anything to add?
I'm gonna use the technology on the other side, the user. You know, the user doesn't need to know what is happening in the background. When I travel before the pandemic, and actually, by the way, the pandemic, I think it's still going on. I see people with masks, so we keep on saying before the pandemic. Actually, it's here. It's still here. So we need to remember that. So I walked into a room. There are three things I care: how many plugs that I can plug my 5 devices that I carry with me when I travel. How close is that to my bed so I don't have to wake up in the night and recharge them? How good the Wi-Fi is? And that's about it, really. Everything else just happens. So the end user is extremely important, no matter what happens in the background and how many systems interact. And the end user doesn't need to know. Again, I'll reference my kids. My kids will only choose if we go on holidays if the Wi-Fi is good. That's reality, you know, that's the world we live in. And by the way, I did forget to say that we are equally strategic partners of Oracle's, so I forgot to say that, sorry, Alex. So they are actually powering the biggest part of our technology, so apologies, I should have said that. You know, Chris beat me to it. So forget about the back, it's all about the end user. everything that we do, people, technology, systems, how good that person, what kind of experience that person and his family or when he's traveling, whatever, is going to have. Everything else, they don't need to know. So I'm on the end user side.
I'd agree in terms of the end user experience. The customer doesn't care what's going on behind the scenes. We model what we created at the Global Hotel Alliance at the Lone Star Alliance, and I remember them telling me when we first were setting up the alliance, they said, you know, you've got to get the tech right behind the scenes because the customer doesn't care. If I'm going to fly on Singapore Airlines and then I'm going to connect to a Lufthansa flight, I want to have my luggage appearing, I want to have my frequent flyer miles appearing on my accounts, I want to be able to check in on both airlines, have one boarding pass. Customer doesn't care. Behind the scenes of those airline alliances is massive technology all connecting through different integration platforms and middleware. We, Alex knows, we are not only a user of Oracle hospitality technology, but if I look at our business, we're using different aspects of technology from different parts of your business. So Oracle Responses, for example, for our CRM platform. We're using NetSuite for our financial management. We're using Service Cloud for looking after our loyalty program customers. So you're using all of these different technologies. And ironically, even within Oracle, if I can say, over the years, you've acquired technologies that have taken time to integrate. And of course, from our point of view as a user, we're like the customer. We're like, we don't care. We need these technologies to integrate. And what I would give Oracle credit for, and I think it's an inevitable evolution, is that we're now getting into an era where integration platform technologies, we're not using an Oracle platform in this case, but we have an integration platform that enables us to connect different technologies. We don't use Oracle BI system, we use Microsoft. Sorry, it's a dirty word sitting on this platform, but we're using Power BI, but it needs to sit on top of OCIS to enable us to look at all the customer data and spend and then do our analysis. So I think ultimately it comes back to what you say. The end customer doesn't care, and we as the tech customer don't care. Everything has to integrate and everything has to work. If we can go to one provider and they can provide all of those solutions and it all integrates and it's the best in breed of that particular technology, then we're all in. Otherwise, you need to be able to pick and choose your different technologies, and they have to integrate.
Thank you so much. Well, we're approaching the end of our time. I want to share one more statistic from our research that I thought was interesting, and then I'm going to ask each of you for a prediction. So 82% of the hoteliers that we surveyed said that they believed that their service model would change significantly over the next 3 years. 80% also said, I don't know if it was the same 80%, but I'm not a mathematician, but I'm pretty sure there has to be some level of overlap, said they didn't expect staffing levels to materially change over that time, which tells me the ambition is to have technology replace things that people are doing today and to redeploy those people into other roles on the property. So my question for each of you, and this time I'm going to start in the middle, I'm going to go to Judith, and I'm going to finish with Dimitris, because I think I've been doing the down the line. What's the thing about our industry that will have changed the most by 2025? When we're up on this stage, God willing, in 2025, what prediction do you have for what will have changed the most in our industry? Christopher, take us away.
Wow. 3 years from now, I think this region will be leading the way in innovation. I think you just need to go over there somewhere and look at what Saudi are doing, look at what here in the Emirates, Etihad and Emirates Airlines are doing. So I think in terms of the forefront of change, if we're talking ATM in 3 years' time, I think this industry will continue to show the way in terms of innovation. In terms of the technologies sort of change, I go back to what I said earlier, I think it will be a much improved pre-arrival experience in the world of hospitality. I think that will become much more seamless. I think all of us need to, in hospitality, think about how we improve communications to make the direct customer experience. We want customers to engage with us directly. That's the bottom line. So let's call a spade a spade. I don't want to be paying huge commissions to third parties to do my job for me. And I think hotel owners want and need to engage with customers more directly. And we need technology to enable that. What hotels deliver in the hotel, the experience, the product, and everything the customer gets when they're in the hotel, that won't change much. But I think pre-arrival, we in hospitality need technology to improve engagement with customers, because that will help us reduce the cost of distribution and reduce the cost of doing business, because profitability is going to remain an issue for the coming 3 years.
Thank you, Christopher. Judith.
In terms of the future, Dimitri and I, we were on the Diversity and Inclusion Council last week in Berlin. And that just ties back to the younger generation joining the hospitality industry or any other industry. And one item that really stuck with me is that when companies talk about sustainability or diversity inclusion, but they don't walk the talk, they don't have this available on their websites, they say one thing and they execute another, that's already a no-go for the graduates. And to me, that was a really big eye-opener last week, and it was a lady from the Lausanne Business School. In terms of technology, what I would like to see, and that's my wish list, is that you have a revenue management system that touches all business units for dynamic pricing, for business intelligence, for reporting, and doesn't just focus on rooms. When you look at the cloud kitchens, and that's also something from a technology side of things that has really come out from this pandemic, they are far ahead when it comes to dynamic pricing. The end consumer is accepting it, and it's just, I think technology needs to be ahead, and then the end consumer is ready as well. Sometimes you need to have a vision, and then you have it developed by the time the end consumer is able to accept it, is ready, or has caught up with it. It's a bit like with cryptocurrency, right? How many hotels today accept cryptocurrency for payments? It's a huge opportunity. And how many providers are actually making this available today? And there is a very small percentage, but a very wealthy percentage that are crypto billionaires. You're talking about the metaverse, and everybody is participating. That has a name. Emirates has just announced it too. But you cannot actually pay with cryptocurrency. So that's two visions. One revenue management system across all business units, and from a payment perspective, then also cryptocurrency.
My head of product and strategy is in the audience, and I know she's already thinking, okay, we've got to add crypto as a payment method. We have an almost infinite list today, but I don't believe we've yet integrated crypto into our payments platform. So
that's okay. I'll send you my fees later.
Fantastic. Sir, bring us home.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I tell you, but the Greeks invented Oracle. Just as a side note. And the ancient Greeks would go to Oracle to predict the future. And so I'm not going to play the Greek Oracle, but if we're here 3 years from today, I think I agree with Chris. This region is gonna change how people look at hospitality. There's going to be a huge change. I think one of the key things the industry needs to do is forget the fact that it's not just about the hotels. It's about the restaurants. It's about the bars, the taxi drivers. If you go to London, I live in London, and I went to my favorite restaurant the other day, and it said closed, shortage of staff. When guests realize that this is actually happening, that experience is going to be gone, no matter how great the hotel is or how great the technology actually works. And so don't forget, it's not just about us, it's about the whole experience. And third, I agree with Judith. It was an eye-opener last week in Berlin. Sustainability, I think technology will play the role to change the way the hotel industry actually addresses the sustainable side of our industry. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You cannot become sustainable just like that. So the use of technology, the waste management, how to become efficient from an energy perspective, all of that in the next 3 years is going to play a huge, huge role. How do we survive as an industry? Because if you look around, energy is 30% more expensive. Construction is going up at 35%. So how can you persuade somebody to become more sustainable when he hasn't got the money to do that? So technology will play a huge role in the next 3 years. So I'm very bullish about the future. I just want more people, more young people to be part of this wonderful journey.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause for our panelists today. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you again.